He's Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We get it, people!
Yes.
What they want.
What a difference a weekend makes, Mr. Rose. When we had a show on Friday, we felt one way about a couple series that have completely changed over the weekend. We will get to that, but we have a major announcement today in the news. Woj reporting Nikola Jokic will be the back-to-back MVP of the NBA.
And I'm pretty sure when the voting is revealed, it's going to be extremely close. These games that you're showing late in the season, at Philly in particular, I think probably swayed a couple of people towards the end. I appreciate all of the top players that were involved in this category, played the entire season. Embiid, Giannis, they knew how important it was to play the marathon. But anytime you get 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists, and that's something that
in a season, not a career.
In a season, and he's the only person to have done that. Yet his wins are comparable of the Sixers and the Bucks, who had for a Denver team who didn't have Michael Porter Jr. and who didn't have Jamal Murray. It was a terrific feat. So I voted for Jokic, but could have easily gone to Embiid as well.
The Heat were up 2-0. Number one seed in the conference, looking great. However, the series moved to Philly, and the series has completely changed, and a lot of that is because of James Harden last night.
So I have one word, expectations. And when I see James Harden become a terrific facilitator, a great passer, and an unselfish playmaker, I won't ignore the fact that they need his buckets because he's an all-time great scorer.
Yep.
And last night reminded me to keep my standards the way they were because that's what the Sixers are going to need. I love seeing Maxey emerge and Danny Green making threes and Embiid playing like an MVP candidate. But to bring this thing home, they needed Harden to score.
Yep.
And that's what he did.
That is what he did. Last night he had that step back working, and I feel like this, and you tell me as a player, he hears everyone say that he's not the same. He hears everyone say that he needs to reinvent himself. He hears everyone say that he lost a step. How much does that motivate him to do what he did?
So that's the media's job without making it personal or name calling. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to actually get into this business. I felt like there were so many people who were breaking down the game, but it had a personal agenda, or they were calling a person a name, right? For James Harden, for me, I just wanted to see him be aggressive and play better. That's why I said he hadn't attempted 20 field goal attempts. That was about aggression. And so it was great to see him play with confidence. And you know what else he played with? Emotion, enthusiasm. You know why? Let me teach everybody something. Because that game mattered. Because if they lose yesterday, what happens, Jacoby?
Extension talks become what we talk about when we talk about the Sixers. If they win this series, getting that extension just feels a lot better for the ownership group in Philadelphia.
Talk to me. And so he's regarded just like we regard other all-star level MVP guys that should be still in their prime at his age. And I talked to him about performing like a used car and Chris Paul being a classic. Well, last couple of days, they flipped roles. And so I want to give James Harden a lot of credit for stepping up the way he did.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to point out about this, even in a loss, was Jimmy Butler's performance from last night. One thing I saw from Jimmy Butler is how aggressive he has been. He went at Joel Embiid. Time and time again, when Joel Embiid was covering him, look at him. Jimmy Butler's like, oh, what are you, 7'2"? I don't care. Look at, oh, Joel Embiid, you're too far from me? I don't care. Like, I just love how aggressive he was no matter who was in front of him, even if it was Joel Embiid.
Absolutely. And the thing about Jimmy is he understands he has to be buckets in this series. And the Heat, they need to make Joel Embiid work defensively. That's why you downsize your lineup. And when I watch Jimmy Butler post up Joel Embiid and I watch Luka post up anybody on the Suns, like that's like punching the bully. It's like, okay, it's got 10 people about to rush me, cool, but doom, when I drop him, the other 9 scatter like sheep. And so that's the mentality that Jimmy was approaching the game with. But here's one adjustment that I think that the Miami Heat are going to have to make. Duncan Robinson probably should play. See, when I'm watching them play, like Gabe Vincent had a couple of shots that would have changed the game, but he missed them. Like they were missing timely shots that I believe that Duncan Robinson would have knocked down. So here's the adjustment. If Harden's going to be scoring anyway, now you have Robinson in there because it doesn't seem like much of a liability. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next game. I believe he only played 1 minute the last 2 games.
Yeah, he hasn't
I would
played.
not be surprised if people start texting me and tweeting me when Duncan Robinson checking that game, because Bam having over 20 and Jimmy playing the offense the way he did, Kyle Lowry, he's banged up.
He is. He doesn't look the same.
Kyle Lowry's banged
he's
up.
grabbing his hamstring after every possession.
We thought Kyle Lowry should be a game-changing acquisition, that now is the time of year where he could be a game changer with his championship pedigree. But he seems hurt. And then the other thing is PJ Tucker's going to give his all defensively. But he's intimidated to shoot. Like, he get an open shot, it's like dribble handoff. Like, he's literally trying to go after offensive rebounds all of the time. Like, he does not want to really shoot the ball. So having both of those guys on the floor for a lot of minutes, I think that's going to change when they go to Miami. And I think the change is going to start with Duncan Robinson.
Look forward to seeing that. You mentioned Luka. Luka has changed the series against the Phoenix Suns almost single-handedly, had himself a game.
The thing I like about Luka is that he's an equal opportunity employer. And he purposely looks at, I saw him do this, and it's hilarious. I did this because he's not fast.
No.
Right? So when you're not fast, guess what you have to do? Your mind has to be a computer of who's in front of me. Okay, Aiden's in front of me. He can slide this way, can't slide that way. Bridges is in front of me. I can go to the post. Campaign's on me. I can go to the post. CP3's on me. I can face up and/or go to the post. And so you know what I'm going to do to send a message? When y'all put Cam Johnson on me, because he's even bigger and more athletic, I'm going to post him too. Mm-hmm. When y'all put Cam Crowder on me, because he's bigger and stronger, I'm going to post him too. So you know what's the problem for the Phoenix Suns? Usually they have a guy that you can put on the other team's opposing perimeter guy and slow him down. Mm-hmm. You can't do that with Luka. And of course, the three-point shooting of the Mavs was extraordinary in the first half.
Yeah, because Luka didn't even have a crazy game, but it was just everyone was knocking down threes.
But look at it like a fight, though. So what ends up happening is Luka becomes the centerpiece, and that is the thing that allows you to get the drawing kicks, the dribble drives. That's the thing that Kleber and Finney Smith get to feed off of. Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie started to make shots. Your guy Bertan started to make shots. And before you know it, everybody feeling themselves. Why
Bertans got to be my guy? Bertans is not my guy.
He is your guy.
Bertans is not my guy.
Okay, gotcha.
Bertans is not my guy. Don't put that on me. Don't put
He's
that on me.
balling yesterday.
Why Bertans got to be my guy all of a sudden? No one else is my guy. What's against Bertans?
Your man.
Now he's my guy.
That's your, because you was criticizing the fact that he got an $80 million deal with Washington, that he came to the Mavs and ain't did nothing.
Yes.
And so I saw him catch and shoot instantly yesterday and
Don't do anything else.
Bucket.
Well.
Bucket. And they literally shot them down and made this a long series.
One of the stories from this game, obviously, is the fouls called against Chris Paul. Look, you could watch the replays over and over and over again and find some contact, but I thought there were at least 2 calls on him that were ridiculous. Like, ridiculous.
So I got to tell everybody something. Like, the officials were staring at CP yesterday. Luka was on the verge of having the same game CP had. Follow me here. Okay. Luka was on the same verge of having the game CP. Let me
5 points?
I'm going to rewind to you what happened at the beginning of the game. Luka got his first foul around the time, if not before CP did. But he was so mad about that first foul. He's guarding Crowder away from the ball, denying him, bumping him. They don't call a foul, but he's still mad about it. He gets a technical foul. You remember that?
Yep.
So they start watching him, and then all of a sudden Luka look up like, wait a minute, CP got 2 fouls? I'm going to take him to the post.
Yep.
And then before you know it, CP gets his 3rd foul. And then it's the end of the half, right? You put CP back in for offense. You feel like I'm putting him back in for offense.
He's a 37-year-old vet. There's no chance he's going to pick up another foul.
You can't be going after an offensive rebound. He's probably done that twice in this season. Where he shot the ball and got the offensive rebound and put it back in. That's one. So that lets you know just his headspace wasn't there as an intellect, as a compare. It happens to the best of them. Like, he had a career-high first-half turnovers in the previous game. Then he had a career-high 4 fouls in the first half. So you ask yourself, why is Chris Paul so bad in the first half against Dallas? It's because he knows what I know. They can't stop Luka. And when he's on Luka, normally when Chris Paul is guarding somebody, I remember him having series where he was guarding Kevin Durant.
Yeah, had guarded him well.
Yeah, usually when you put Bridges on him, it's like, we ain't got to worry about that. Bridges second defensive player of the year. Luka
Not Luka.
Luka ain't worried about nothing.
Not Luka.
And so that, to me, I think is something, along with Reggie Bullock, I got to say his name into the atmosphere. Making threes, picking up 94 feet. Bullock has done
guarding Chris Paul.
Former great Hall of Fame caliber Detroit Piston.
Former New York Knick as well.
Reggie Bullock.
Jalen Rose, you talked about Chris Paul's headspace earlier, and we saw some video from the stands of where Chris Paul's headspace was late in the game. Remember, he fouled out, he's already angry, and allegedly there was some physical contact between a fan, perhaps that fan who's being escorted out, and the family of Chris Paul on Mother's Day.
So I analyzed Chris Paul, the basketball player. Now let me talk about Chris Paul, the human being. He's definitely one of my favorite professional athletes of all time. As somebody that's a founder of a charter high school, Chris Paul is very philanthropic. And one of the things that he's personally done is had the scholars of the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy attend his basketball camp in Carolina for years.
Wow.
For years. And he, early when I first started school, along with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, attended the camp to support the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. So when you see me talk about them as athletes and what I see in a box score has nothing to do sometimes what I think about them as human beings. And if Chris Paul gonna respond the way he responded, something happened. And he's the public athlete. LeBron falls into this category. Steph Curry falls into this category that I've always admired watching them be sons, husbands, fathers, brothers, teammates, leaders, all for public consumption, because that's a lot. You know what I mean? And you mentioned it was Mother's Day, probably had his mother there, probably had his wife there. Yep. They getting waxed, he having his worst game. And then all of a sudden, when I foul out, somebody bumping into my people. Like, I know why he took it the way he took it. I saw where he took it on social media, and I feel him. I'm not mad at him at all.
Well, something tells me Chris Paul's going to have a big game 6 in this one.
Oh, he will?
Something tells me he's going to have a big game 6.
Marcus Smart being a defensive player of the year and plays with a level of physicality that you just don't see at the guard position. He and Drew Holiday both do that. I believe that last play, literally when he shot the three, but then when he missed the free throw and got the rebound, he was actually a victim of not flopping.
No one's ever accused Marcus Smart of not flopping.
Correct. So let me give you some game.
You mean on this putback here?
Yeah, look, because Bobby Portis, he could have got a foul from Bob. He could have sold that.
He could have held onto the ball and fell to the ground.
A lot of people trust me, as somebody that's faked a lot of flops and flopped to get a lot of foul calls, if he holds on to that ball,
good point.
Just a one more second, just a millisecond.
Goes to the ground, forces them to either call it travel or a foul.
That's the first thing that I thought when I saw that.
Great analysis,
because and then at the 3 line, but here's the first one I'm talking about. Like he saw the play happening and he anticipated that he was gonna get hit. But the reason why, and I believe it was a bad call, but the reason why they called it a non-shooting foul is because he's facing the sideline. See, look, do the play again. If he turns his hips and he really does the rake underneath like CP3 and sells it, then they don't have a choice but to do it.
Shoulders are kind of facing the bench.
You see what I'm saying? When he first squares up, he's facing the sideline. That's what gives the ref a sight gag to give him an out. And then when he misses the free throw, so perfect. It's never executed like that. He grabs the ball and Bobby Portis was about to foul him. But he like not really knowing how much time, because people never really missed a free throw that way. He like, I gotta get this thing up there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then it became a rush. I think Time Lord
had a great shot at it. Horford had another shot at it. And the second time he got it in just a little too late.
Time Lord got to go with 2 hands. See, play the play again. like you're big. And I'm telling you, I guarantee you that's what he's saying to himself. 1, he didn't square his hips. And 2, when you don't square your hips, you get a ref.
So watch Time Lord on this one.
Time Lord's tip. He's
Bottom of
number
the screen.
44 in green. Like if he take
Look
it,
at Lopez, leaves him.
bang.
Oh.
See, like he didn't go straight up. He just like volleyballed it. And so again, great intensity for the Celtics to make it a close game late because they were losing. But the idea that this play cost them the game, it did not.
No.
The Boston Celtics, the last quarter and a half, attempted 17 free throws and the Bucks attempted 0.
Exactly. So if we're going to complain about the refs and this call and that call.
17-0. And one team got Giannis on it that was driving.
Let's acknowledge Giannis for a second because there was so much action at the end of the game that it almost overshadowed another just dominant Giannis performance. They just don't have an answer for him. Remember that one game when Greg Williams was the answer?
I'm telling you right now, just when you watching Giannis play, that's exactly what Luka learned to do on the perimeter. Like when I'm watching Luka play against the Suns, that's exactly what he's doing to them. He's bullying them. Mm-hmm. And what Giannis didn't do is settle. It's like, I tried jumper because I worked on it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I made a 3, cool. I missed one air ball, I'm not shooting one of these for a while. Oh, I'll shoot a mid-range, I make one, cool. Other than that, I'm dunking everything.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And the thing about Giannis's game is still trying to make his teammates around him better, playing with a level of excitement and enthusiasm. And lastly, Darvin Ham deserves to be a head coach.
See about that.
Jacoby, you've been hearing me talk about this since the beginning of the season. Coaches that just got with their teams the last couple of years. Monty Williams, Ty Lue. Do a domino effect. Ime Udoka doing a terrific job. Willie Green doing a terrific job. Like Darvin Ham will fall into that vein once he get a head coaching job. And I'm happy for Mike Brown, who just got hired for Sacramento. But I need my guy Mark Jackson at some point to get a head coaching job also.
We have to move on to some bad news. Game 1 and Game 2 between the Warriors and the Grizzlies were so exciting. Came down to the wire. Ja Morant played such a big role in them. In Game 3, while they were getting waxed, this play has changed the series. Tyler Jenkins says, Ja Morant, Taylor Jenkins, not likely to play in Game 4.
So if you're able to slow that play down, there is a part of that play where you can see Poole happen to push his hip and pull his knee the opposite way. And there's some forensics that people may try to do to decide that ultimately what led Ja to getting injured. But I think the reason why Ja took down the broke the code tweet that he put up is because as somebody that was covering that game, there were multiple plays, in particular one where he tried to contest Klay Thompson in the first half on the right wing. Klay pump faked it, and Ja's knee hit Klay. And after that play, he was holding his knee on that play too. And so, and lastly, when you're an athlete the way he is, and when you're jumping as often as he is, people underestimate he missed the last 9 games with knee soreness. So anything that touches that knee is going to be sore. So it allows us to really know how hurt he's been playing. But before we acknowledge that, I have to say this. How dominant was he before he went out the game? Jeez. I know they was getting waxed and they was losing, but in particular without Gary Payton II, like there's nobody they have that can guard Ja. Nobody.
But it is worth mentioning that Steph Curry and Jordan
Splash
Poole,
Brothers.
Steph Curry and Jordan Poole looked great. Like they look good. They just never stop. They never stop moving.
Ain't it dope that they got Splash Brothers and Pool Party?
I know.
That's dope.
Of course they do. It makes so much sense. Jalen, there's so much more to get to, but before we analyze more NBA, we have to